All right, as we jump into this next section, your book should be open to page 144 and you should have your notes out for lesson 5. As we go into it, we're going to be talking about energy moving inside the ecosystems. Every organism needs energy in order to live. And right away, I can fill that out in my notes. Energy moves through an ecosystem through food chains, energy chains, or food webs. And these aren't ones that we see a web of energy moving. This is just the way that scientists can look through it. Plants, protists, and other microorganisms are producers. Producers make their own food for energy. I can fill that in my notes so I know a producer. And if you think about a producer of a movie, they're making the movie. So producer would make their own food. They get energy to make food from the energy of sunlight or chemicals. In nature, many other organisms use food that producers make. Consumers cannot make their own food. They usually eat other organisms to get energy to live and grow. All animals are consumers. So they usually eat other organisms to get energy to live and grow. All animals are consumers. There are several kinds of consumers. Herbivores eat only plants. Carnivores, also called predators, eat only other animals, which are their prey. Omnivores eat both plants and animals. Decomposers eat waste or dead organisms. When an animal eats, it takes in matter as well as the energy stored in food. Arrows in the food chain below show how energy can flow through an ecosystem from a producer to an herbivore, a carnivore, and finally to a decomposer. You see the spotted owl gets from eating, the hare came from the plants. So sun to the plants, the hare, and then the owl, and then the bacteria. So we see all of the energy moving along throughout that chain. Looking at food chains and webs. On land, most animal food can be traced back in some way to plants. In the ocean, food chains often start with plant-like microorganisms called plankton. Food chains at deep sea vents start with bacteria. So it starts with bacteria and then to the super small animals, and it kind of gets bigger and bigger as it goes. Food chains can be very short, involving only a plant and a decomposer. Chains can also be longer, involving more than one carnivore. A food chain is not a complete way of describing A food chain is not a complete way of describing energy flow in an ecosystem. This is because consumers usually eat many kinds of other organisms. To see an ecosystem more fully, you need to look at a food web like the one below. A food web combines many food chains into one picture. So food chains and webs describe the energy flow in an ecosystem. A food chain is not complete. It's just part of it. A food web combines, looking through that, a food web combines webs, chains, I'm sorry. A food web combines chains to be complete. So the chains all come together to make the food web. Right away, I'm going to get down the definition of energy pyramid. It's a diagram that shows the amount of energy that flow through each level of a food chain. Alright, so you should have the definition down and we're going to begin reading. In an ecosystem, energy flows from the sun to the producers to herbivores and carnivores. However, most of the energy within every organism does not reach the next organism in the food chain. So that energy doesn't always make it, all the same energy from the sun doesn't make it to the next person on the food chain. An energy pyramid is a diagram that shows the amount of energy that flow through each level of a food chain. The base of the energy pyramid is the widest. So the bottom of this pyramid is the widest, starting with the plants. This shows the energy in the producers. Producers have the greatest amount of energy in an ecosystem. Notice that the pyramid becomes narrower at the upper levels. This shows that less energy flows upward from the lower levels to the higher ones. Decomposers are not shown in energy pyramids. So there's no decomposers, which we know would come later on. Some energy cannot flow upward in the pyramid because most of the energy has been changed. The energy does not disappear. It changes. Organisms use most of the energy to warm their bodies and do activities. Their bodies store only a small amount of energy. Only stored energy can pass along the food chain. For example, a snowshoe hare gets energy by eating plants. The hare uses its food energy to run, breathe, and do other life activities. These activities turn most energy from the rabbit's food into body heat. By the time an owl eats the hare, only a part of the plant's energy can pass along in the food chain. So most of the time, what happens is the heat takes away from the energy going upward. So the animal's heat, using it to do activities, takes the energy away. So as you are going to work onto your worksheet, as you're going into it today, you can either go on to your steps to completion, and then you'd click on the worksheet. You can also see that into your assignment for today. That worksheet will be done online, and then you are all set to go. And this is what the worksheet looks like. It's very similar, so take your time on that. Use your notes to help you out. And then this last question is just walking through the difference between consumers and producers. So make sure that between a grass, hawk, mouse, and snake, you tell me which is a producer and which are consumers. And then you can go ahead and submit that through for your science assignment for the day.